Hello dear students, and welcome to another English language lesson. Well, today we say that the world has become a global village. What does this mean? Does this mean that the world has shrunk? Does this mean that the world has become smaller? Absolutely not. Of course, there are things that happened, but what are they? Let us think about this. Now look, today we can talk and see somebody who is living in a very remote country live. We can also get informed and watch events happening in the four corners of the world. So, what is this? What happened to allow us to do this? Now let's see the answer. Modern means of communication. Yes, modern means of communication shortened the distances. It made the world small. It shortened distances between people. What before took months, a trip that used to take months before, now take several hours. So modern means of communication shortened distances. I mean, before we used it to make very expensive phone calls, and sometimes we cannot make these phone calls to people who are living very far away. Now, through the internet, for example, we can chat, watch, and talk to people living everywhere. This is why modern means of communication has made the world a global village. Now look at the following picture. What are these? What are these? These are all means of communication. But we need to name them, I think. Now look at the first picture. This is a payphone. What's a payphone? A payphone is a machine that we find in the streets. We can find it in hospitals, at school, and everywhere. But how do we use it? A payphone. We need to pay. That is, we need coins. We should insert the coin, lift the receiver, and then dial our number and talk. Number two, this is a mobile phone. What's a mobile phone? I think this is not a question that I should ask you. Now everybody knows what's a mobile phone. You all have mobile phones in your pockets, actually. Now look at this. This is a TV set. Again, here, I don't need a lot of effort to explain what's a TV set. Everybody has a TV set at home, actually. But look at the shape of this TV. Is it the normal shape we have at home? This is a plasma TV. The screen here is very flat, and the TV set is very flat too. Number four is a computer. Computer, communication. How does the computer allow us to communicate with others? Is it a means of communication? We are going to see this later. Now look at number five. This is a magazine. I thought it was a picture of a beautiful lady. Now actually all magazines, and most of them actually have pictures of ladies, of stars, of politicians, of very well-known people on their covers. Of course, they need that to pay to sell more, actually. A video phone. What's a video phone? A video and a phone. Using this video phone, you can talk and see your interlocutor on the screen at the same time. The next one is a web phone. What's a web phone? It is like a mobile phone. Still, it is different from a mobile phone. We can use a web phone to get connected to the internet, for example. We can use it as a camera, for example, too. A newspaper. Good. The newspaper is actually the oldest means of communication ever. So many people still prefer to read newspapers rather than watch the news, for instance. They think that they can find more information on these newspapers, or even the information that they don't have on TV, for example. All that the TV or the radio doesn't say can be said in newspapers. Also, newspapers give points of view. and allows you even to voice your point of view. Now the next one is a cordless phone. There are two words here, cordless and phone. Look at this telephone. Do you see wire? No, there is no wire here. The handset and the phone are separated, and this is why we call them cordless, that is without a wire. The last one is a talkie-walkie. Where do you see this? Who use this? Actually, we can see this with policemen. Policemen use this great deal. People who work in very big factories also use talkie-walkies. Anyway, now, my question is, do we use these means of communication in the same way? Of course not. There must be a difference in their use, which actually causes their existence. Now let's look at the second activity and learn about that. Now take the correct alternative to complete the following sentences. Number 1, the most used means of communication is the mobile phone, the internet, or TV. Number 2, people use mobile phones more than they use any other type of phones, less than they use any other type of phones, as equally as they use any other type of phones. A talkie-walkie is different from a mobile phone because it is bigger than a mobile phone, we can use it to communicate only in restricted zones, it is less expensive than a mobile phone. Number 4, we use a payphone when we don't have coins, when we are out in the streets and we don't have any other type of phones, to make cheap calls. We use the internet to make phone calls because the internet is the most modern means of communication. It is cheaper. Everybody has a computer at home. Now think about these. Let's look at the answers. Number 1, the most used means of communication is TV, of course. Everybody has got a TV at home. And we also watch TV for long hours a day. And so many people get informed essentially through TV. And because TV is actually a means of communication and a means of entertainment also, people do have TVs at home and they stay for hours watching TV. Number 2, people use mobile phones more than they use any other type of phones. Why? Actually, mobile phones has become these days very fashionable, and everybody's got a mobile phone in his pocket because mobile phones are small and we can carry them everywhere. These are the most means of communication we use nowadays. Number 3, a talkie-walkie is different from a mobile phone because we can use it to communicate only in a restricted zone. Yes, a talkie-walkie is not a mobile phone. It's the kind of phone that we use in factories for workers who work very far from each other and need to communicate. We use them with the police because policemen use these tools also to communicate, and so on and so forth. We use a payphone when we are out in the streets and we don't have any other type of phones. Yes, when you are in the street and it happened that you forgot your mobile phone or you don't have another type of phone at hand, you resort to a pay phone. So you go to a pay phone, you insert your coin, you dial the number, and then you speak. The next one, number 5, we use the internet to make phone calls because it is cheaper. Yes, the internet allows you to speak with other people everywhere in the world for very little money. I mean, chatting and is cheaper than using your mobile phone or your home phone to speak to somebody who lives in France or in Italy or wherever. Okay? Now look at this question. Which means of communication do you prefer? Do you prefer to use mobile phones? Do you prefer to use TV to get more information? Do you prefer to use newspapers and read newspapers and magazines to be more informed and to know all that is happening around you? Or do you resort to your computer whenever you need any information or whenever you need to speak with somebody else? Right? Let's see the answers now and discuss them. I prefer to use the mobile phone. Now notice the use of the infinitive verb to use after the verb prefer. I prefer using the internet. Now here we use the verb prefer differently because it was followed by an infinitive verb in the first sentence and it is followed by a verb ing in the second sentence. What is this verb ing? Is it the present progressive form? No, absolutely not. Here it is not the present progressive form because the present progressive form is actually made by to be plus verb plus ing. However, here we don't have to be. So this is not the present progressive form. Let's see what it is. Prefer can be followed by an infinitive verb, not a bare infinitive verb actually, and prefer can be followed by a gerund. What is a gerund? A gerund takes the form of verb plus ing. Now let's go to our text. Read the passage and find out what means of communication Bob prefers to use and which one he considers the best. This is our text. I am going to read it to you. So listen and follow on your screen. What's the most important means of communication for you, Bob? My mobile phone, of course. With it, I'm never alone, and I can always be in touch with my friends and family. Yes, that's true. We're never alone with the mobile phone. But what other means of communication do you use to get informed of what happens around you? I don't read newspapers very often because I have no time. Reading newspapers really bores me. I read newspapers only if anything important happens or if I found there anything which I am really interested in. I listen to the radio quite often despite the music they are playing there. I can find a lot of information on the radio because it broadcasts the news every hour. I watch TV quite often. Some people say that watching TV is quite tiring, but I use it as a relaxation. I lie and sometimes I sleep in front of the TV set. I enjoy watching movies and documentaries on TV. I think the internet is the best way of communication. There is more information there, and you can also watch TV through the internet or listen to the radio. You can read newspapers or magazines too. However, it is still expensive. So, I don't have it at home. But I am going to have it when I am older if people won't invent anything better, of course. This is your text. Now you can think about the question. Now let's see the answer. Good. Bob prefers using his mobile phone, but he considers that the internet is the best means of communication. To communicate, to speak with his friends, to talk to his friends, he usually resorts to his mobile phone. So he considers that the mobile phone is his best means of communication. And the internet for him, which is the most modern means of communication, is also the best means of communication, right? Let's move on to another question. Read Bob's answer to the second question and fill in the following paragraph with words or expressions from the text. Bob doesn't blank read newspapers because it him to do so. He prefers to get informed through the which blank news every hour. Let's go back to the text and see and find out the answer. Now, I'm going to read just the answer to question number 2. I don't read newspapers very often because I have no time. Reading newspapers really bores me. I read newspapers only if anything important happens or if I found there anything which I am really interested in. I listen to the radio quite often despite the music they are playing there. I can find a lot of information on the radio because it broadcasts the news every hour. I watch TV quite often. Some people say that watching TV is quite tiring, but I use it as a relaxation. I lie and sometimes I sleep in front of the TV set. I enjoy watching movies and documentaries on TV. Now, you can think about the answer for a second before we see the answer. Now, here's the answer. Bob doesn't often. The words in bold are the words we use to fill in the blanks. Bob doesn't often read newspapers because reading newspapers bores him. He gets bored when he reads newspapers. He prefers to get informed through the radio, which broadcasts news every hour. The radio is the means of communication that he used to get information, and these information he gets them from the news, which the radio broadcasts every hour. Good. Let's move on to the next question. Now answer with true or false and justify your answer from the text. The internet provides more information than any other means of communication. We can have access to all types of media through the internet. Bob is not connected to the internet because he has television at home. Bob thinks there won't be any means of communication more modern than the internet. Now answer with true or false and justify your answer from the text. Let's go back to the text and read it. What's the most important means of communication for you, Bob? My mobile phone, of course. With it, I'm never alone, and I can always be in touch with my friends and family. Yeah, that's true. We're never alone with a mobile phone. But what other means of communication do you use to get informed of what happens around you? Well, I don't read newspapers very often because I have no time. Reading newspapers really bores me. I read newspapers only if anything important happens or if I found there anything which I am really interested in. I listen to the radio quite often despite the music they are playing. I can find a lot of information on the radio because it broadcasts the news every hour. I watch TV quite often. Some people say that watching TV is quite tiring, but I use it as a relaxation. I lie and sometimes I sleep in front of the TV set. I enjoy watching movies and documentaries on TV. I think the internet is the best way of communication. There is most information there, and you can also watch TV through the internet or listen to the radio. You can read newspapers or magazines too. However, it is still expensive. So, I don't have it at home, but I am going to have it when I am older. If people won't invent anything better, of course. Now take some time to think about the answers. Yeah, true, false, and give your justification to every answer. Let us see the answers now. Good. A. True. Bob says, of course in the text, there is most information there. There here refers to the net. B. True. Bob says, You can watch TV through the internet or listen to the radio. You can read newspapers or magazines too. So the internet gives you access to all types of media actually. Media like newspapers, magazines, the radio and everything. C. False. Bob says it is still expensive, so I don't have it at home. It here refers to the internet. Bob doesn't have the internet at home and he wishes to have it when he grows up, that is when he becomes older and he can get connected because the internet is still quite expensive in the beginning. D. False. Bob says, I'm going to have it, that is the net, when I am older. If people don't invent anything better, of course, right? If there is nothing better than the internet in the future, Bob will have the internet, right? Because actually modern means of communication are developing every day. Every day there is a new means of communication, there is a new actually development that occurs in this field of modern means of communication. Now let's move on. In what ways does the internet allow us to communicate with others? This is a question that we asked in the beginning when we saw the computer. Now we know that to get connected to the internet we need a computer, right? And then we get connected to the internet. But in what ways does the internet allow us to communicate with others? How do we communicate with the rest of the world, with the people around us? How do we get informed of what is happening around us through this tool, that is through the internet? Let's look at the answer now. Good. Chatting on MSN or Skype is one way of communicating with others using the internet. Participating in discussion forums is another way to communicate with others on the internet. Now all of you are familiar with this word chatting, right? We chat on MSN or Skype. We can chat with people we know or even people we don't know, and it's one way of communicating with the rest of the world and communicating with people who are around us. Participating in discussion forums is another way to communicate with others on the net. What are discussion forums? Actually, discussion forums are open everywhere on the net. You can either participate in one of the forums or even just open your own forum, put a question or suggest a subject for discussion, and then you will receive so many answers of people, and then you can respond to these people and get into a discussion which may take time, but which is very informative, because you can, through discussion forums, actually know what people think about certain topics of your personal interest. Now let's move on. There are gerunds which are used as subjects. Actually, our question was, what is the grammatical function and the form of the words in bold? Chatting and participating. What is the grammatical function of these words, and what is the form of these words? These words, as you can see, are put in the beginning of the sentence. So, chatting on MSN here, they look like subjects. Participating is also in the beginning of the sentence. It also looks like a subject. So if we turn to the answers, we can see now that they are gerunds which are used as subjects. What is the form of these words? Of course, verb ing, as we said in the beginning. Now let us move to more practice. Look at the following sentences and try to find out how gerunds are used. Chatting on MSN or Skype is one way of communicating with others using the internet. I enjoy surfing on the internet. I went to bed after doing my homework. So many countries in Africa are lacking in drinking water. In the first sentence, which is a sentence that we have seen before, chatting on MSN or Skype is one way of communicating with others using the internet. Here, chatting is used as a subject of the sentence, so the gerund can be a subject in a sentence. I enjoy surfing on the internet. Surfing is the gerund. It is used after the verb enjoy. Good. I went to bed after doing my homework. Doing here is the gerund, and it is used after the preposition after. So many countries in Africa are lacking in drinking water. Drinking water is a compound noun, as you know, because we have seen compound nouns, and we have seen that one of the compound nouns is a verb plus ing plus noun. And here we have a compound noun, so gerunds can be used in compound nouns. Now, let us put all these things together and see what rules can we extract from these sentences. The gerund has the form verb plus ing. It's used as a subject, as we have seen in the first sentence, after certain verbs like enjoy, like, finish, hate, dislike. We say, I enjoy watching TV. We say, I like eating pizza, for example. We say, when you finish doing your homework, go to bed. We also say, I hate going to school early. We can also say, I dislike watching horror movies. After prepositions like after and before, after finishing your homework, brush your teeth and go to bed. Before going to bed, you must brush your teeth. In noun compounds, as in drinking water and the sentence, many African countries are lacking in drinking water. Now read the text again and find examples of gerunds. Let me put the text on your screen again. Good. This is our text. What's the most important means of communication for you, Bob? My mobile phone, of course. With it, I'm never alone, and I can always be in touch with my friends and family. Yes, that's true. We're never alone with a mobile phone. But what other means of communication do you use to get informed of what happens around you? I don't read newspapers very often because I have no time. Reading newspapers really bores me. I read newspapers only if anything important happens or if I found there anything which I am really interested in. I listen to the radio quite often despite the music they are playing there. I can find a lot of information on the radio because it broadcasts the news every hour. I watch TV quite often. Some people say that watching TV is quite tiring, but I use it as a relaxation. I lie and sometimes I sleep in front of the TV set. I enjoy watching movies and documentaries on TV. I think the internet is the best way of communication. There is most information there, and you can also watch TV through the internet or listen to the radio. You can read newspapers or magazines too. However, it is still expensive. So, I don't have it at home, but I am going to have it when I am older. If people won't invent anything better, of course. Now look at your text carefully. Try to find examples of gerunds before we move to the answers. Now let's move to the answer. Reading newspapers really bores me. Reading here is the gerund. It is used as a subject of the sentence, of course. Some people say that watching TV is quite tiring. Watching is a gerund. I enjoy watching movies and documentaries on TV. Watching here again is a gerund, and it followed the verb enjoy. Nice. Now, express differently using a gerund instead of the verbs in bold. Sorry. I hate to stay alone at home. You have to inform your parents before you go out with friends. To be honest with people is the best policy. Here, to stay is the verb that we should convert into a gerund. Go is another verb that we should convert into a gerund, and to be is another verb that we should convert into a gerund. Now think about the answers for a while. Now here is the answer. I hate staying at home. You have to inform your parents before going out with friends. Being honest is the best policy. I hate staying. Staying is the gerund and you follow with the verb hate. You have to inform your parents before going out with friends. Going is again a gerund and it follows with the preposition before. Being honest is the best policy. Being here is a gerund. Now look at the second sentences. Our first sentence was before you go out with friends. Notice the disappearance of you here. Before going out with friends. Now let's move to the writing exercise. Activity number 1. Match the parts of sentences in A with the parts of sentences in B to get a coherent paragraph and write your answers in C. Be careful, there's an extra item in B. TV may be the most widespread. It can influence us very much because it is true that viewers do not. In some other cases, however, viewers. Now the items in B. Can visit the other side of the world while being at home. Of its moving pictures. Help each other. Media in cultivated countries. Really choose what they watch. Now let's find a link to the first part of a sentence and let's match it with the rest of it. TV may be the most widespread. Widespread what? Actually here we need a noun. Widespread can. It's not possible. Can is a modal. Widespread of is a preposition. It's not again possible. Widespread help is a verb. It's not a noun. Widespread media. Yes, media is a noun. So TV may be the most widespread media in cultivated countries. Good. This sentence looks right. It can influence us very much because what? Because of or because plus a pronoun or a noun. Now let's look. Because can is a modal. Because of its moving pictures. Yes, TV presents moving pictures. And because of these moving pictures, it attracts us. It is very attractive to us and to teenagers especially, teenagers like you especially, okay? You like moving pictures and colored pictures, and then TV attracts you. It's very attractive for you. It can influence us very much because of its moving pictures. It is true that viewers do not what? Here, actually, we need a verb which is put in the negative form. People, it is true that viewers do not can. Can is a modal. It is true that viewers do not help each other. Viewers do not help each other. Do we need this? Is it the right meaning? Because actually pupils do not help each other. Viewers do not help each other. It doesn't make sense because we don't need this. It is true that viewers do not really choose what they watch. Good. It is true that viewers do not really choose what they watch. So many people do not choose what they watch. They just put a channel and watch it, move to another channel and watch it, move to another channel and watch it. And every time they have a program proposed to them and not chosen by them actually. So it is true that viewers do not really choose what they watch. In some other cases, however, viewers can visit the other side of the world while being at home. Yes, can is a modal and it fits here as a second part of the sentence. So in some other cases, however, viewers can visit the other side of the word while being at home. Now let's look at the answer and read our complete paragraph. Now, TV may be the most widespread media in cultivated countries. It can influence us very much because of its moving pictures. It is true that viewers do not really choose what they watch. In some cases, however, viewers can visit the other side of the word while being at home. And here our paragraph is completed, so you can now write it with correct punctuation. Now let's move to another type of exercise. It is still a writing exercise. Look here. This is a telephone conversation, but it is lacking in some information. The information or the sentences or the parts of sentences, you have them in the second column and the conversation is in the first column. Now let's read. Mr. Darcy. Hello, can I speak to Mr. James, please? I'm sorry, blank. Can I take a message? Mr. Darcy. Blank. Could you ask him to phone me? Secretary. Does Mr. James have your number? Mrs. Darcy. I think he's got it. Blank. It's 743219156. Secretary. Okay then, I'll tell him to call you. Mr. Darcy. Thank you very much. Blank. Secretary. Goodbye. Now let's look at the answers. Number 1 is C. Mr. James is away for the moment. I'm sorry, Mr. James is away for the moment. Can I take a message? Number 2 is D. Yes, please. Could you ask him to phone me? Number 3 is F. I think he's got it, but I'll give it to you just in case. It's 743219156. 4. Okay then, I'll tell him to call you. B. As soon as he comes back. 5 is A. Thank you very much. Have a good day. 6 is G. You're welcome, sir. Goodbye. Now, let us move to activity number 3. You are members of the editing team of your school magazine. You are working on an article about the benefits and the drawbacks of the Internet as a means of communication. Write the article. The following hints may help you. Here are the benefits and the drawbacks. Benefits: easy way of communication, cheaper, as we have said, the Internet is cheaper than, communicating with the Internet is cheaper than communicating with a mobile phone, for instance. Exchange views with people from different parts of the world, as we have said, through chatting or through discussion forums, you can exchange views with people all around the world. Gives access to all sorts of information. Of course, the Internet gives you access to all sorts of information. Whatever you need, you can find it on the Internet, and you can make your researches and stuff like this using this tool. The drawbacks: addiction. So many pupils, so many teenagers have become addicted to the Internet, and this causes a great loss of time, and of course they may neglect their studies. Waste of time and neglect of studies, as a matter of fact, is the second